So here we are. This is the Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya. And this evening, we welcome you to our film night, where we discuss thematic areas to do with women. And with us here is our chairperson, Nana Wajao, and our co-moderator, author writer, Mona Obogo. So today we are looking at how this film knocked them down, how this film speaks to women, film done by women, and then it's got a very strong political theme. These are women who are trying to vie for political seats in a male-dominated environment, in an environment where the holders of those positions are what these women are not. They are men, these women are not. They are very successful businessmen, these women are workers like you and I, employees and all that. Thirdly, these men are much older. These ladies are barely in their 30s, some of them probably even 29 or 30 years old. Three things that these women are not. And they've decided to bring their house down and take over their positions. So you can imagine all the issues they go through. So we are not politicians, so we had to bring a very successful, powerful lady to help us with this discussion. So I will introduce you to Gladys Boss Shollei. How are you, Madam MP? Honorable Gladys, how are you? We can't hear you. I don't know why. Sorry. Repeat that again. We couldn't hear you. Yes, you're okay now.
Yes, I said I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me. And Gladys will do. You can ditch the honorable.
First of all, my God, do you look lovely or what?
Thank you. I'm actually going somewhere else to a function, an evening function.
Okay.
So I just had to stop and
okay. You look gorgeous. You look lovely. Let me put on the screen my co-moderator. She usually runs these sessions as well, but she said she also wants to pop in and come onto the screen. Let us say hello to our audiences before I bring our chair. Mona, say hello to our guests.
Hi everyone. Hi Gladys. You said we should drop the honorable. I was going to say that, and you said drop it. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be here with you, and you look absolutely amazing. Njoki was right. You look
gorgeous.
Thank you, Mona.
And then our chairperson for the Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya, she's also the coordinator for the whole of Africa. We are a bit proud to say, Kenya, we've moved so much forward that our chair has been asked to kind of also work with other groups that are still growing and all that. So we are very honored. I'm going to bring on the screen Nana, and I'm going to ask Nana Wanjao, our chairperson, to welcome our guests and tell our audience, what is CBWN Kenya all about? Nana, here we go.
Thank you. Oh, fantastic. Oh, we are here. Woohoo! We're the we're stuck in board meetings. But we love this space so much, Gladys, that nothing would get on the way of us being on this film night. In my opinion, watching movies is living multiple lives in one lifetime. I just love movies. So a little bit about Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya. We are a ground partner of Commonwealth Business Women Network, CBWN, which is a registered community interest company in the UK. CBWN is an accredited organization directly recognized by the 54 governments of the Commonwealth across 6 continents. We are committed to advancing UN Sustainable Goal number 5 and the Commonwealth Charter. CBWN is focused on women's leadership and economic empowerment. Before I even go further, you can see why this film and our guest Gladys is here today and we're discussing that film, because CBWN is focused on women's leadership and economic empowerment. Our mission is to strengthen the Commonwealth, build businesses, and advance women through what we call our 3 T's: talent, training, and trade. Talent, training, and trade. Now, I will tell you why are we here, women in the film industry, creatives. Why the creatives? We want to increase the participation and progress of women in creative industries. I'll repeat that. We want to increase the participation and progress of women in the creative industries. In a nutshell, turning their art into profitable business. We were just discussing that just before you joined us, that women must put, these films, these creatives, they must put money in their pockets. It's not child's play what they do, it's real work. So that's why we are here as Common Business Women Network, to ensure that creatives put money in their pockets. Back to you, Njoki.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mona. Because Gladys says she has an event to attend. And you know, like I said, when you become a politician, you belong to everybody. I'm just going to jump in very, very quickly. First of all, Gladys, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who is Gladys? You can go as personal and as detailed as you please.
Oh, you know, I always think of myself as a mommy, as a sister, and as a daughter. I mean, I always say those are my 2 greatest jobs. Yes. And sometimes I don't know what I am really professionally, because I started out as an environmental lawyer, and then I went to teach at the university, and then before I knew it, I went into management at Kenya Law Reports, and then I went into public service, and then now I'm in politics. I'm actually a new politician. I was supposed to be a technocrat, so that's me. I've done everything and anything.
Okay. And as it's typical of women, at times we don't sing our praise enough. So I'll sing a little bit of your praise, Gladys. Member of the Kenya National Assembly representing Uasin Gishu County as a women representative, has tabled, this is quite important, Gladys, and I want to say, she has tabled before Parliament 2 bills which are still pending: Reparations Bill and the Constitution Amendment Bill, Gender 2/3 Bill. I think that is really worth mentioning. And look at your qualifications: Masters in Law, Masters in Business Administration, Diploma in Law, Certified Public Secretary. Oh, wow. And we know, Gladys, you also worked in the judicial system in Kenya in a very pivotal role, and you were a trailblazer, holding a position there in a very male-dominated environment. I know that because I did some work for the judiciary. So allow me to sing your praise, because that's what we should be doing, singing praises for our women. But then, we called you here for a purpose, so I'm diving in.
Yes.
Gladys, tell us, this film where young women are trying to beat men, older men, and they're not just trying to beat them because we are women, we are women. No, they're saying we are closer to the people on the ground. We feel them, we understand them. Please tell us your experience, especially when you entered politics as a woman, and a very young one, and a very pretty one. Was your journey like, or how was it?
It was tough. And can I just allow me to say one thing about my work in Parliament? There is also the pesticide petition that I have that I've put in Parliament to try and get 262 different types of fertilizers, pesticides from being used in Kenya, because they are cancer causing. They can no longer be used in other countries, but they are manufactured in those countries for sale in Kenya, both in Europe and the US. So for me, that is also something that is close to my heart. And I'm hoping that Parliament will approve my petition. Now I can tell you about politics. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Gladys. I'm leaving
for a bit.
Oh, okay. I'm leaving the screen for you, so you talk. Yes, go ahead. Yes, yeah.
As you know, when I joined politics, it was a lot like what I saw in the film. These were people who were doing it for the first time. They were, and even though I had been experienced in public life, I wasn't experienced in politics. I had been in the public service. I had worked in senior levels in government, but the job was very different, because with that, I just needed to prepare the strategy. I was in control of what programs I wanted to run. I could choose the kind of teams I could work with, and it was you had help from HR managers that we had to get us the best brains to help you do the best job you can. But when you go into politics, you're almost on your own. And when you begin to choose a team, there is no set qualification of who can help you in politics. So at the beginning, you think you'd run it professionally, but no, because I realized, and for me, I got strengthened when I went sometimes to church meetings or women chamas in the village, and I would listen to these women speak. And then I realized they are so brilliant. It was unbelievable. And I'm like, what do you do? And they would like, oh no, I'm just a peasant farmer and so on. But I could see the potential in them. So after that, I went back to my campaign team and I said to them, I'm going to use these women to campaign for me, because they knew much more about what happens on the ground. And actually, women are very well organized in the countryside. You actually can't believe that when you look at it from afar. But when you sit with them, almost every village has women in chamas and in or church groupings and so on. And so they have their own setup. They have their own organizational structure. And so I was able to leverage on that. And what was difficult for me, even though I was not going up against men, my biggest challenge is I was said to be elitist, too educated, and they said that in fact, some people said I can't even speak the local language. And I remember I had to go on a show on Kass FM every week, just so that people could know I understand their issues and can speak their language. And so I had a disadvantage to that. And then I also had the other disadvantage that my family doesn't come from a big clan. So I could relate to these women who are had ordinary lives. They were in the working class and trying to go into an area that people thought they shouldn't be going in. Although mine wasn't exactly the same, it's relative. It was the same thing. And so what happened is I now had to try. So many people, when they are running for politics, you try and upscale yourself.
Yes.
But in my case, I was trying to downscale myself, dress down. I don't know how I love my Beyonce hair, So, and then I said, I always love my jeans, but now I said, okay, I have to make sure that the women can relate to me. So I started wearing my long dresses, because then at least I looked familiar and I dressed a bit like them. The only thing I didn't agree to ditch was my hair. I just said that
I can't visualize you in a long dress, and I can see Nana dying to say something. Over to you, Nana.
This is so important, because we are always to something. To something. I mean, the system will always find to something, too beautiful, too educated, too poor, too rich, so it's
too young.
Too young, too young, or too old,
and too skinny,
yes, and too outspoken, too bold, too noisy, too everything.
Very important for young people to hear that yes, you should expect that you will be to something. In fact, there is a line in the movie that says, you've got to be fearless because they are coming for you.
Yes.
They are coming for you. If you're going to run, you gotta be fearless because they are coming for you. So yes, I'm glad to hear, Gladys, that they did come for you. You can't speak the language. There you go on a radio station having to prove yourself that you can actually speak your local language.
Yes, yeah. Interesting.
And I know there were things like, and you see, when they come for you, you think that you've done everything right, but they will always find something. And I mean, and then also the bloggers, one kind, your opponents just focus on actually destroying you, writing bad stories about you. There sometimes I saw pictures and I thought it was myself, but then later I realized it wasn't me. But they had it. If I thought it was me, can you imagine what other people thought? So,
they cropped you.
Yes. And the other surprising thing is that the people who are attacking you are not actually your fellow women. There's all these hired people they have who are all men, because they're very good at playing that game.
Yes.
Of ensuring that they're able to cut you, down to size. And so it's a very, and in my case, I remember one time someone said, why does Gladys want to be woman representative of Uasin Gishu? She's held all the jobs in Kenya. Why does she want this one? And they almost made it look like it was a sinister motive. And I remember when I started explaining to them that I understand I'm a farmer, so I understand about farming. I understand the challenges they're going through. I was educated on milk money and maize money, So I said my parents were peasant farmers, and so I do understand it. And it's only with time that they began to understand. But they throw the kitchen sink at you,
Yeah.
Njoki, can I say something?
Yeah, Mona, go ahead. Go ahead, Mona.
There's something that Gladys said and something that you said as well, which really stuck with me. I feel like as women, we don't know how to declare ourselves. And that's probably because we keep getting you're to this. And I'll give an example. There's a fairly new group that I started on Facebook where women were being told to come and introduce themselves. And they did. And we learned from the people who went, and they said, they said everything that they have done, and they stood tall and stood proud. Now, what got me, because when I was doing my thing now, I said, okay, even me, I have to dig deep and, and really declare myself, which I don't usually do. But what got me was there was this whole other group of people that now started attacking the women who were declaring themselves, and actually went off to form their own thing to say, here, we don't boast about who we are. Here we just say, I'm just Mama Mboga, Mimi, I'm just, and I was like, it's very interesting for women how we are caught in that thing of when you declare yourself, you're too proud. When you shrink back, you're, too timid. It's, I think it's a tough balance, something that we need to learn consciously.
And I think I remember during my working time when I worked in the public service, I remember once my boss, then the chairperson of the organization, said to me that I was emotional. And I looked at him and I said, no, I've just made a tough decision. I'm not emotional. Then I said, if a man had done the same thing, they would have said he's tough. But they always have name tags. Or because I'm very self-assured, many people would call me arrogant. But then I was grateful one day when I read Jack Welch's book, where he said there's a very thin line between being self-assured and arrogant. So many people confuse being self-assured as arrogance, which also they put tag names on you. And then even then, when you're there, when they want to, instead of recognize you as their equal, I always tell this story when I walked into a boardroom and which was full of men, and someone said, Karibu Murembo. And I remember I stopped on my tracks and I said, my name is not Murembo, but when you do figure out my name, you can invite me to your meeting. And I left. And everybody thought, in fact, the description someone said is, my God, she's crazy. She stormed out of the meeting.
Yes.
But you see, I explained to someone, I said, you're a man you will never understand. Because for me, what the message I got clearly is that it was patronizing, it was condescending, and basically that's all you bring to the table.
Yes.
Other people were being called waziri, other people are being called chairman, Karibu chairman, and so on. And then for me, that was insulting.
Yes.
And it's very subtle things like that, because I realized what they were trying to do is put me down and just say, you're just someone attending, a flower attending this meeting. But I realized that after I reacted like that, the next time I went to the meeting, if I walked in and the chairs around the boardroom table were all full, someone would stand and give me a seat. And then they would never finish a discussion without asking me, Gladys, what do you think? So at least what I did is I fought for my space in that particular meeting. So when they're not telling you you're too good or you're too this and too that, sometimes they also put you down. And it comes out as a compliment.
Yeah.
But then it's not a compliment. Not when it's your working colleagues and the way it is said. I mean, my friend can call me that, but if I'm walking into a meeting for the first time, instead of saying, welcome Gladys Shollei, she's the chief registrar or this or that, describe me. Well, that's how they were describing the others when they walked me. But for me, no one said what position I held, why I was in the meeting. They just said Karibu Mrembo. And for me, that was very offending.
But let me make it, let me get some clarification from you, Gladys, because I've also had a situation like that where I was trying to get somebody to, this was online, and I said, oh, your art is so good. Can, message me, we need to do business. And she said, and the guy said, hello, Murebo. And I just said, we are not doing any business, So now, let me go back to a realistic question here. And before I do so, let me acknowledge Kyra Benedict. She says, she's texting, she's sent a message. She says, if only you women or us women can know the power you have, the only problem is us, ourselves. And also Felicia Chepkurui says, Ocasio-Cortez says, the fundamental question in the beginning is, why you? The reason why was because nobody else would. So literally, nobody would be right because the alternative is no one. So going on more on this, Gladys, are you actually saying, that we shouldn't accept compliments from men?
No, I think no, everybody likes. Everybody
like now you look gorgeous. Some guy can tell you look good.
No, you see, the thing is, I mean, if somebody says now you look good, I accept the compliment. It's when it's said in your professional circles. You can always tell when it is condescending or when it is a compliment. There's a very big difference. Like I said, I'd watched all the other men who had come into the meeting. They were introduced, their positions were given. But for me, I was not told my position. Nobody introduced what position I am. No one said Gladys brings in her experience in the judicial system to this table. They basically just said, you're Murembo. So I think many women can tell when it is a compliment and when it is a derogatory.
It was said in the tone that the bouquet of flowers has arrived. That was the tone of the comment. But what I noticed, Gladys, is at that very moment, striking when the road is hot, you corrected and you set your rules. And after that, it was even easier for you. Now they will not make decisions before they hear your opinion. It's interesting. I'd like to hear from Mona, who is a different generation from us. Mona, how do you deal with your counterparts? You are several years younger than us.
I find our age group is probably a lot more accommodating. However, you must fight for your space on that table. I've sat in many committees, particularly in my neighborhood, where we do, we run the neighborhood. So I've sat in a lot of committees doing that. And I will find when the meeting starts, I will say something. The men will be saying something and I will say something because for a while it was just me, right? And they kind of just dismiss you and continue with the conversation. And you say it again. They dismiss you. 30 minutes later, these guys come back to the same thing you said at the beginning. And I'm like, guys, this is what I've been saying for 30 minutes. You could have saved yourself 30 minutes, So for me, the challenge was how do I speak and make sure that these guys are hearing me, because they've put you in a certain point in their, in their heads. There's another time when I was left at the meeting for 30 minutes, everybody else was late. And they sauntered in and they're saying how, the wife, the children, because it was in the evening. And they were like, you're single. So I walked out. So like Gladys, I said, no, guys, I've been sitting here for 30 minutes. You can't even come and apologize. You're coming to give me excuses about your children and your wives, who I respect, but respect me for my time. Even if I was sitting to watch Netflix, it's my time.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to get your space with them, I find.
So
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to know, Gladys, do you ever, two questions actually, do you ever get tired? Tired to a point of, this is just not worth it. Yes. I've got better, I would rather stay home with my children or farming. This is not worth, that's one. Do you ever get tired? Secondly, do you ever stop being afraid, fear? Because you are being attacked so often from all corners, and it's coming, like this lady who was told they are coming for you. Do you ever stop? How do you manage the fear? Or is it that you are fearless? What is it?
Earlier in my life, when I was younger, I had a bit of fear. But with time and with every position and every time I grew, I realized that whenever I panicked or had too much fear, I couldn't function. So I learned to tell myself, you know what? I shouldn't panic about things I cannot change. And I think I remember the one where my sister asked me that same exact question very recently, when the Nairobian called me and said that they are going to write a story about me. And I was with my sister and I basically told them, go ahead and write. So my sister told me, you're not scared? I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, what is it they're going to say? The same things they say about women all the time. You're either a drunk or a prostitute, period. There's nothing more they can say about you. So I think because I've grown up now, I have such thick skin. Yeah. I think it's hard to break me now. But at the beginning, it was hard. But I think it's something you've had to have a conversation with yourself. And you ask yourself, when you look at what is the worst case that can happen, it's actually nothing. It's because we have grown up in a society where we want people to affirm us, or you want to be people to give you validation. And so what I have learned is that I validate myself. Yes. I will define my circumstances. I will not allow circumstances to define me. And if someone doesn't like me, or one says horrible things about me, it doesn't bother me because I know who I am. So, and I think for me, once I said to myself, no matter what they think or say, when they tell you you're emotional, you're crazy, I think you're intransigent. I think that's another word that's been used on me.
Oh my.
And now I said to myself, and I remember once I appeared in Parliament during the time when I was at the judiciary, and I had the time I had just been suspended from service, and I had to appear before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee. And one of them asked me, Gladys, we hear you're a no-nonsense person. You shoot from the hip, and you expect people to do things in a certain way. And they said, don't you think maybe that could have been a problem? And I said to them, I know that character and that personality I have is my greatest strength. It may also be my greatest weakness, but definitely I win more times. The strength side, sort of tilts in favor of the strength. So, but I tell people, if I wasn't that kind of person, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're not daring, if you looked at the movie, if Alexandra did not, when Evan told her, you're a waiter, you can't run for political office. If she had listened to how people were telling her, she would actually not have dared.
Yes.
In fact, people thought she was crazy for daring. And everyone thought, this is unbelievable. You really think you can do it? So I like that spirit in her, because it's exactly me. When you tell me you can't go through that wall, that is when I will go through that wall.
That's when you go. And actually, Gladys, there's one time when they were at a town hall meeting with the old gentleman that she was going against, and she actually gave a very brilliant answer to something. And the guy was and then when he spoke, he said, congratulations, I'm very impressed. Well done, because for somebody with the little, no experience at all, you know, to be able to come up with that response, you know. And I thought, typical. But there's something you've actually said that I'd like to pick on. People will tell us, will accuse us, you are too full of yourself. My question is, what should we be full of if we are not full of ourselves? You know? Is it that we should be a whole basket of fears that people have thrown it to us? I feel, Gladys, what you said is very important. Be confident of who you are. Even shout from the highest mountain what your weakness is. I am bad with numbers. Fine. I'm not pretending to be an accountant. I'm bad with numbers. So I'm happy with me being bad with numbers, you know, that sort of thing. So I like that a lot. But there's something else you mentioned about when you were in judiciary, when they called you for this staff meeting, they're suspending you, they're doing all sorts of things. I have a theory, and I pose this to you, Gladys, and to the other ladies. In our Kenyan environment, first of all, we are a highly educated nation. We have women who are very well educated. When they go and present papers and everything out there internationally, people go, wow. However, when it comes to leadership, it's like we don't have as many in those high positions. Yeah. So I keep asking myself why. But I have a theory that, Gladys, the likes of you, the likes of strong, assertive women, Nancy Baraza and others, the minute you allow yourself to be you and verbalize being you, it's like it's like you're a piece of sugar and there are bees and flies. You attract everything. Why do you think this is so in Kenya? Because for me, it makes me sad that the minute you are a strong woman, you are a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's this book called Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. She was the former COO of Facebook. And she writes in this book, and basically more or less the kind of topic we're talking about now. And she was talking about a research that was undertaken by Harvard Business School and Columbia Business School. And what the conclusion of the research was that success, power, and likability are negatively correlated to women, but positively correlated to men. Because what happened in this research, they had a description of a man and exactly the same description, but changed the name to a woman's. And when the research was done, when people knew it was a woman, they didn't like her. Because people expect women that they are caregivers, that they nurture others, that they always serving others. That is how God created us. And so when people see a woman who's powerful, it bothers them, it shakes them. Yeah.
Yes.
And let me tell you, for even the most modern men will always, in fact, many of them have to train themselves to know how to deal with a powerful woman. And if you followed my story when I was at the judiciary, there was a war council, which was it was all over Facebook, and because because the emails were leaked, and they made a war council to fight me. But when their biggest problem with me is they said I was too powerful. But remember, I mean, they had never been in a position of chief registrar that was in the constitution. So it was the first time that the position of registrar was a constitutional office with a lot of powers and basically work that would not ordinarily be done by judges. Because now the new system was to make judges stick to judicial work and have an administrator running the administrative arm of the judiciary. So of course it was new. And the fact I remember they eventually called me Darth Vader. Yeah, you might have, because and of Star Wars. I'd never watched Star Wars, so it made me watch Star Wars. But I was very flattered. I was very flattered, and when I saw the storyline, because there were two gods. And they said there could only be one God. So they had to get rid of Darth Vader because they were eclipsing the God, the bigger God. So I said, my God, I mean, they actually are killing me because I'm getting bigger than the real God. Good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's, yes, and that's what the issue when you talked about we have to remove the fear, and I forget which book it is, where they say most of us pull back, we pull ourselves back because we are afraid of greatness. Yeah, we're afraid of being out there and powerful. Yeah, and Gladys, you are quite a role model to quite a lot of people. I'm reading some comments here. Shiro Mwangi says stands for sharing. Zena Lemaletian, sorry, she said, Honorable Gladys, I'm always very proud of you and your bravery. Indeed, a beautiful light towards younger ladies aspiring to get into active politics. Yeah. So, and I think one of the other things is sharing these stories. You know, you went through a lot, Gladys, and you went through it in the media right there. People were butchering you into pieces. And look at you now. You are so comfortable in self. You are glowing, you know.
Yeah.
And you're
okay, let me add something.
Yes, go ahead, Mona.
And this is a bit of I guess a tough question, both for you, Njoki, and for Gladys, is you talked about women of power not connecting with the vast majority of people, whether it's male or female, because the men fear us and the women cannot identify. And my sister Emma and I were talking about women in film now, coming back to film. When powerful women are scripted in film, 9 out of 10, they are very annoying, even for me. And we had this discussion, Njoki, I think even in Commonwealth in our group. And we're like, why is that, right? And I think, I don't know, do you find that on some level, sometimes because we're in such a male world, we feel like for us to be strong, and not all of us, but for us to be strong, we have to be masculine, and that we then lose a more powerful part of ourselves that if we put together, we'd reach more people or have a better chance of whatever position we're occupying.
Yeah,
I like Gladys go fast. Yeah.
No, I think I always tell people don't lose your femininity, because that is power in itself. And I realized sometimes when you go back and ask yourself, what do I ordinarily do? And this was the best campaign advice I received from an ordinary woman in the countryside. So what happened is I had gone to a funeral. They were the day before the funeral, how the women cook out, you know, they're cooking. So I was sitting there with the women, and it's in my neighborhood. So one of the women told me, alafu tulete yo viazi, you know, she sent me. Then I told her, you know, you guys hapa munanituma tuma saa zote. Like when I go to other places, people think I'm up there. They should know that munanitumanga too, you know. Like, you treat me like, you know, anyone. And I said, but why do other people? Then they asked me, did they say that about you? I said, yeah, they actually think I'm a snob. So the lady told me, do you do this with them? Then I realized, actually, I don't. Because I realized I do that in my neighborhood. You know, when I go to the next house there, they have a funeral, I go and chonga viazi with them, you know, I peel potatoes, I cook with them. So I realized that the people closer to me see me as a different person. And then I had, the problem was every time I went to an event, you have dressed up, you know, you're making a formal speech. So people don't actually get to know who you are. So what I did is I changed tact, because I realized sometimes we want to appear formally in places where we should just be connecting. And actually, I like what the women politicians were doing. They were walking door to door, which is exactly what eventually I did for my campaign. I would get off the car at the start of the shopping center, and I walked into every shop, shook everyone's hand in the market. And that's when they realized, oh, she can be like us, whereas most politicians would be standing on top of their cars. And I remember I swore never to do that again. Once that lady told me, do you do what you do with them? What you do with us, you do with them. And that is when I started saying, okay, I'm not going to allow all these campaign advisors to tell me, be on top of the car, address people. What I started doing is walking to people. I never went past people in a car. I would never allow my car to drop me right at the venue. I would walk and chat with people as I walk there. And I realized once people knew who I was, it became easier. And so that is sometimes it's the way society expects you to, carry yourself. And then also when you talk about the topic of, I think you're saying sometimes you become too tough to the point that, you want to become masculine. But, you can be tough with a gentleness,
Yes.
And
Yes.
And I think it's the manner in which you do it, and that's why during my campaigns, many people would hire bloggers. I was the only politician who didn't have a blogger on my payroll, because the bloggers were really for downsizing other people and so on. So what I said is, the only things I'll post is the work that I have done, and let people pick for themselves. And I said I will do it myself. And then also when what you might be afraid sometimes, because remember, society wants us to be conformist. They want us to be very nice and even if denying what you believe in, just so that you can fit in, because people hate being criticized and so on. But I think the only thing is, we must get over being afraid of being criticized.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have heard recently that I'm supporting the dissolution of parliament for failure to implement the two-thirds gender rule. Of course, my colleagues are furious with me, But then I told them, I have put a bill and have always fought that we must implement the two-thirds gender rule. Do you want me now to go back because my job is at stake? And one of them said to me, Gladys, aren't you afraid? I said, when you are afraid, you will be paralyzed and never get anything done. You will never make a difference. When I look at people I admire, like Wangari Maathai, if she had been afraid, she'd never have made the difference she made. If Rosa Parks had been afraid, she'd not have made the difference that she made. So sometimes you no matter how scared you are, you should be willing to say, you know what, I will overcome. The only thing you should be afraid of is death. If someone's going to shoot you and you leave your children behind. But I think anything else, you should be able to overcome that. But, and again, if you look, there was a phrase that says, if you stand for something, there will be many people against you, but there will also be some people for you. But if you stand for nothing, there will be no one against you and there will be no one for you. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? One who just sort of conforms and gets through life and everybody likes you, you can't. Unless you're going to be a drifter in life. So you've got to be willing to actually challenge the status quo.
Very many compounded points.
And then also what I tell people is, sometimes when I'm going to make a really tough speech, I dress up and look nice, because it reminds me of my femininity, So sometimes even your dress code, it's good for you.
That is so true. That is so true. Gladys, so many points. Let's unpack them. Nana, help me unpack some of these points. Very good points here.
What has it cost, Gladys? Because these things cost you.
Yeah.
What has it costed you to be who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I can say it has cost me. There are many people who feel threatened by me. There are many people who do not want to associate with me because they feel I don't shrink enough and therefore I outshine them. So yes, you'll always have that challenge. And believe me, in every set of people, I will find there will be, out of 10 people, there'll be 3 who don't like me at all. But I tell myself, of the 7, that I can make a difference, then I will stick to it. I know when I first went to Parliament, I would get upset when people were late for meetings. And then people were not used to being told you can't be late for a meeting or you should be on time. And I remember someone said to me, but Gladys, this is how Parliament works. And I remember I asked them, but Gladys Boss Shollei was not the chairperson of delegated committee when they were doing that. But eventually people appreciated it, because eventually my committee ended up being the best performing committee in Parliament with the highest number of reports. And even the committee members began to, because they saw that the House recognized their work, they also now began to to work really hard. And that was before I was fired from the committee. I was,
Yeah.
I was doing my party.
I noticed that Alexandria had a support system. You know, she had her mother and, you know, siblings. Who is your support system?
Yeah. I come from a family where I am loved beyond measure. So for me, I mean, I've got my sister is my closest friend, very supportive. My brothers, my parents will do anything to support me. When I've had to work, when I've had to be away, there's always one of my family members will be at my house looking after my children. So I think you really have to allow yourself to receive help.
Okay.
And you need to have people who can help, because you can't do it on your own. So I'm able to do the things I could do because I had people helping me along the way. And now that my 2 grown-up children are there, they are also extremely supportive. And I think because they grew up with me, they sort of understand the kind of person that I am. And my son worries. He just says, "Mom, I don't know how I'm going to get a wife, you know, because your standards are too high." You know. So.
But Gladys, I think that's a very important point I need to repeat, to reaffirm that your support system is the family. Yeah. So if you're going to be a feisty, very strong, assertive woman, and you know you're going to attract all sorts of attacks from all corners, better build on your family relationships, because that is the foundation. If it has cracks, then you are playing about to launch and you don't have a launching pad. You will sink, you nosedive. That is very
I need to add something else, and I think also it's your family that gives you confidence. They are the people. I always tell myself, for me, the affirmation and the confidence I get from my family is very important to me. I remember when I was growing up, my father used to tell me that I was the tallest, the most beautiful, and the cleverest, even when I was not. But that's constant, and I think it's something we must teach, you know, our young girls. You must tell them to believe in themselves, so that if somebody tells them you're beautiful, you're like, it's not news. I know that my father told me, or my mother told me, or my sister told me. So it's very important to have that self-esteem. And then on the other side, I had a mother. My mother believes in nothing more than less than 100%. So growing up as a child, I actually didn't know it was okay to get 9 out of 10. I thought it was a fail because my mother didn't accept it. And so my spirit of excellence, I get it from my mother, and my high self-esteem is from my father. And thank God I had both of them, because I think if I had my mother, I'd probably be broken. But if I had only my father, I'd be a good for nothing. So
good. And Gladys, we have a mutual friend from USA, Lady T, Townsend Duchess. She's actually written here. She's complimented you. Great panel. Njoki and Gladys are 2 of my favorite women in Kenya. And she goes on and on. So somebody is watching and listening to us all the way from Atlanta. So Gladys, yes, let me also pick on something else. There's something you said that speaks to me as well. My dad, I'm a last born, and most of us are girls in the family. And my dad used to take me to elders meetings when I was even under 10 years old. I'd be made to carry his stool. And the elders will complain and ask him, why have you brought a girl? Why have you brought a child? And you'd ask them, which, when they say, why have you brought a mwana, a child? He will ask, which part of the body is she missing? Does she have a leg? Does she have a head? Does she have legs, arms? So she's complete. So she sits. Then they would say she's a girl. So he would say, oh, no, she's called Kamau. Do you know I grew up being called Kamau? Wow. And I wondered why my dad used to do that. It was his way of saying you can be as good as a guy, you know? So every time I did something feisty, aggressive, they would say, there goes Kamau, you know? And I think it helped me a great deal. God rest him in peace, but he helped me a lot. Now, I'm holding the Constitution of Kenya. Here's the Constitution of Kenya, Gladys. And
yes.
I'm a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer in the closet, you know. And
I like
when you
that.
come to, is it chapter? Chapter. Okay, it's clause number 97. I want to go back to an issue you touched on, but not all our audience will be very familiar with the legislative system. The Constitution clearly says 2/3 on page 90. I mean, item. You call them item 97.
Yes, article.
Njoki?
I think Njoki has frozen.
Okay. All right. Maybe I can still answer the. I can answer.
Yeah.
Is reading to herself at the moment. But anyway, let's continue with the conversation. She'll be right back.
Yeah, but I can. I mean, she's mentioned about the 2/3. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yes.
Yes. I think our constitution clearly said that in all elective and appointive positions, there should be at least no more than 2/3 of any one gender. So whether men or women. And then there is also a part of the article of the Constitution. I just started on now, Njoki.
Yes.
So,
my network just didn't like me talking about women in parliament. And that
They shut you off. They shut you off.
They shut me off. The powers of darkness, they shut me off. Okay, go on, Gladys.
But you have me to still fight for it. So I was saying that our Constitution clearly put a principle that for any elective or appointive positions, they should not be more than 2/3 of any gender. That means it could be men or women. But I know why people think 2/3 is about women. It's not about women. It's about the rule of law. When I said Parliament should be dissolved if we don't enact the law, because if you look at Article 3 of the Constitution, it says every person has an obligation to respect, defend, and uphold the Constitution of Kenya. Every person. And then it goes on to say that any government that is formed in any other manner other than in compliance with this Constitution is unlawful. And the Constitution even went further in Article 261, where it says that if Parliament fails to enact any legislation, not even just 2/3, any legislation, then anyone can go to the High Court of Kenya to seek orders to compel Parliament. And that is exactly what the women's movement did. They went and sought orders to compel Parliament and the Attorney General to implement or enact the 2/3 gender rule. What happened is, when they failed to do so, then the Constitution goes on to say that if there is failure to do that, if those orders are not followed, then the Chief Justice shall advise the President to dissolve Parliament. And then it says, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. That means the words are mandatory. The Chief Justice shall advise, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. So when many people are telling me that, Gladys, you're crazy, you're a member of Parliament and you want to be out of a job, and I was telling them, just read the Constitution. And I told them, as a member of Parliament, you took the oath of office to respect, uphold, and protect our Constitution. Every minister took that same oath. The head of
Gladys,
state.
can I ask you something?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
In relation to that, if we work backwards, how do we prevent ourselves from having to step up and say there's not 1/3 of us in there? How do we ensure that there is enough of us in the first place so that we are not cut out and then now we have to go and fight to be put in?
Because it's a voting process, yes, Gladys.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, you see, because our voting process, because of the biases of our society, or the meanness of the campaigns, or the amount of money that is required, discourage many women from being able to run. I'm sure, Mona, you could run, but there'll be things about your age, you might be resources and so on. So what we want to do, and then of course there's biases. When they can't even listen to you in a meeting, it just tells you that's exactly how the electorate is. That's exactly how the electorate is. That's why they don't elect enough women. So what we were saying is we need a program for 10 years, an affirmative action program for 10 years, where we find ways of getting more women in.
Yes.
For example, when I was running for political office, the thing is, everyone wondered, Gladys, why did you run for women representative? I said, because I was new. But right now that people have seen my capability, I can now run against the men and bring in another woman to run.
Yes.
You know, maybe get a young woman like you and get, if we allow you to fight just with women only, then there's more chances of you'll be elected, and then you'll showcase yourself. So in my bill, I was finding ways of getting more women in. And I believe once we get more women into parliament, there will be, people can see their performance. And I've now that I've even seen the women representatives that I am with in parliament, many of them were unknown in their areas. You know, like I like using the example of Rehema Hassan of Tana River. She was campaigning on foot the whole time. She had no resources. But because it was a woman representative seat, it enabled her to come to parliament. Right now, I mean, you might have seen her on TV. Now she speaks on television. She's articulate. She's amazing. She raises issues. And I think another, you know, so when I look at the young lady from West Pokot, Tom Tommy, we call her the baby of the women members of parliament. She's the youngest. But she's been given a chance to showcase herself. When I see her now, I know that one day she can be elected on her own right against both male and female, because she needed the platform to showcase herself. So right now, if we can have more women there, they will be able, even now as even women ministers, the reason why we want them to be more, we want them at least 1/3 of cabinet to be women, is so that women can have a chance to showcase themselves. And you see, when another woman showcases herself, it allows, and the electorate say, oh, women can actually perform. And that's why for me, whenever I'm performing my duties, I know that I have to not only do my job, but I have to encourage the voters to vote for the next woman and not regret it.
Very interesting you said that, Gladys, because I remember asking people who are close to you. I said, why is Gladys going for the women rep position? Why doesn't she go for the Senate? I was actually asking myself that. And then I thought, there's a Kikuyu word we use called diti. You know, like when you're about to do high jump, you've got to first go way behind that.
Yes.
And run very fast. And one thing you've said here that I really love, sorry, I always go back to my language, but especially when I start running out of English, I go into Kikuyu.
English is our third language, you know.
I tell you, and it came with the boat. One thing you said that has touched me a lot, and I think lots of women leaders who are listening to us and who will watch this video later on YouTube, is that there you are, you didn't like try to go for the highest. You say, let me start here, let me suss out the ground. I know I'm going to make it through. I have a high probability. Then there's something you say. When you go for the next one, you also make sure there are other women ready to take up this, because we need to have that mass movement. It can't be. It can't be like those women who want to be there so they can say, you see, women, I'm there and you are down there. So worship me. You know, they might not use those words, but they have that attitude. So we need to bring the other women with us. Yes,
and I think if you look at my my constitutional amendment bill, I was saying, like in Wasingishu, instead of having one woman representative, we should have 3. So that instead of a woman running in the whole county, they run on 2 constituencies. So you pair 2 constituencies and then be able to bring in 3 women. So even though at that time you might have had people saying that I have said I want to scrap the woman rep seat. No, I was doubling the number of women.
Increasing it. Increasing it.
If a place has 17 constituencies, then you would at least have 15 women representative seats. In that, and that way you'd get the 2/3. And all I was saying is, let's do this for 2 terms, because when we have the huge numbers of women, and then believe me, it's going to be easier to elect women. And I tell people, affirmative action hasn't just begun. remember, it started during Moi's time, President Moi's time, the ASAL, you know, the arid, semi-arid lands, when they would allow the young men, it was both for boys and girls. If you had less than the qualification point for the university, but you were the highest in your region, no matter how low, you came to study law. So I know people from Northeastern, from Masai Land, from Turkana, who are with me in law school, who joined with much lesser grades, but because they had come from what they call
marginalized.
You give them an opportunity to be able to join. And today, I can tell you that some of them are 10 times better than me as lawyers. You know, so that's was the opportunity that they did not have. If you remember, the Girl Child Also program, that was an affirmative action program. So affirmative action is not new. It is to allow the others to catch up, and that is what must be done.
Yes. Now let me take you back, because this one time you made so many points one after another. I'm trying to unpack them now. One, the role of parents, both the mother and the father, in preparing the women from when they are young girls, that self-confidence. I'll take you to a scene in the film that made me feel, I don't cry easily, but I had tears in my eyes. After Alexandra got through and she went with her partner, it wasn't even a husband, whereas in Kenya, you must have a husband to don't get me there. So they were looking at White House out there at the public area. She sits there and she starts crying. This is the one time she didn't cry when she was campaigning. She cried when she made it, you know?
And she said, that is our house.
She said when she was 5 years old, she begged and begged and begged her father that she joins them on a road trip. So they went to Washington, D.C., from New York to Washington, D.C. And the father showed her the White House, the reflective pool, all these, seat of power. But the father said one thing: this is ours. He is a Latino, a minority from New York, and is being told this is ours. And she remembered that exactly. And now there she was, sitting on this stone, looking at this big house, and now she's one of the leaders.
I know, I cried when I saw that too.
No,
so I think it's a very, I think you say it very well. And it's our parents at home, but also if you're a sister, encourage your sister. Whenever I have young people, and I do a lot of speaking events, can you imagine, in primary schools in the village? And I love it because, and every time I tell those girls, you must stand up, hold your hands akimbo, and say, I am beautiful and I am destined for greatness. The reason saying is I tell them, keep saying it, because you know sometimes I remember when I was in primary school, and when you would lose self-confidence, and people should realize even something as shaving children's hair, you know, a girl's hair, she might sometimes lose her confidence when she's not wearing a uniform that fits well and she doesn't look nice. It takes away her confidence. And so when I visited the schools, sometimes I go to the assembly and I see all the kids with I say, any of the kids with torn clothes, I want them out, I want them measured, I'm getting them uniform, because I know how important that validation that you get when you're young. And so it doesn't, it's good if you have it from your parents, but I appeal to all women that when you meet any child, if you can just give them a word of encouragement, it's amazing. And because that changes, that one word. And I remember this parent later said to me, you know, my daughter started studying and believing in herself after you went to her school and told them that she can do it.
Yes,
you know,
and
then even just encouraging our young girls to public speaking in schools. You know, because sometimes someone is brilliant, but then if you're not able to stand up and speak in front of people, so what I always tell the girls, I used to shake the first time I spoke in front of people. When I had to recite my first poem in school, I was trembling. But I remember my father was the only person standing up in the whole auditorium clapping for me. You know, and I wasn't doing a very good job of it, but you see, with time you improve. So it's just encouraging them, and that because once they can do that, and by the way, it takes one thing that one person says that makes a whole big difference. When I speak to young girls, one of the things I tell them, I was never an A student. Can you believe that? People think I was an A student. Actually,
I would have thought so. Yeah.
No, I had the lowest mark in Hill School Primary School in KCP that year. I had the lowest.
No.
Yes. And I was only taken to the Loreto Convent School because my sister was already there. And the nuns didn't want to separate siblings. So they would admit a sibling, you know. So, I mean, and then I remember I kept on, you know, I would struggle reading, you know.
Yes.
And I had a friend who was brilliant. She would read like the pages through and she knew everything. Eh? She's now director of Standard Chartered Group. Eh? That's my friend Temutai Murgor. And she was, you know, I was like the friend of this genius. And I was a struggling student. But then I always tell young people, what helped me was I was disciplined and hardworking. I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And by the time I came out of high school, I was a straight A student.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So and sometimes we tell our children, and so I always tell the primary school kids, just keep working hard. But it doesn't mean that because you're not good, you're not going to succeed in life. So you that's why you find that there was recently a girl from Wasingishu who was had gone to a really, you know, not a very good school in the village, but now she's I think she's world acclaimed now. So sometimes just encourage, because we let our exam system country define us so much that you must be number one, you know. And I'm glad that we have gotten rid of that system.
Yes.
Where you're telling, because when you keep telling a child you're number last, you know, how do you expect them to ever think that they can pull up? How do you tell a child you're number 67 out of 68 and expect that to encourage them to work harder? The question you should be asking yourself, which I asked my children's teachers, I would always say, do they work hard? Do they do their homework, even if it's wrong? Even if they got it wrong, did they do it? Do they do it consistently? And that is sufficient, because now I tell the teacher, after that, it is now your job as the teacher, because it means the child didn't acquire the knowledge.
That's true.
It's about memorizing. It's about acquiring the knowledge. So I was really happy when the 844 system was thrown out.
Yes. And Gladys, as you said, I'm looking at the clock. Believe it or not, we've even gone half an hour beyond time, and it feels like we've just begun. We must have you back, Gladys. But from what you said about education, I'm hearing one thing: this obsession on good grades and mental intelligence. Well, it should not supersede. It should not have more importance than common sense, because how we survive, how we get into leadership position, it's actually more of the common sense than the unique sense, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
And by the way, some of the most brilliant people I know are the ones who people think don't have an education. And I always tell people, I'm old, and in my campaign, I would like listen to that woman who gave me a campaign strategy that should have paid somebody 1 million shillings to tell you. But she was just a woman who doesn't have any education, but she was amazing and brilliant. And I saw when I had an art exhibition in Eldoret, and it was for amateurs, you know, and so people who are making things in their homes. And when we had that exhibition, I couldn't believe the talent that is wasted, that is at home. You should Google my art exhibition and see that. I mean, and then it tells you we have geniuses who have been excommunicated because the society wants you to have a few degrees. In order for you to be successful.
Now, Gladys, you know I can't let you go before I ask a difficult question.
Yes.
You have big job at judicially and everything, played in the media and everything. So did your separation and divorce.
Yes.
What did they do to your career? What the lessons would you like to share with us? Because I was one of those people when I saw you in a nice, beautiful short dress with a hunk on your hand, and I'm thinking, hey, she's gotten herself somebody. I don't know whether it was true or not. It's what social media was giving us. And then everybody was saying, how could she do this? Well, as your ex, everybody was like, good for you and everything, but Gladys was being challenged on her new banner, on her short dress, and me, I wrote there, she looks beautiful, she looks sexy. Go on, Gladys, good for you. Now, share a little bit with us. You know, I had to ask you a difficult one, you know, before you go.
That's okay. It's not difficult. It's out there in the public.
Yes.
No, I mean, if you look at it, our society is such that women, I mean, even if you see the context in which the pictures and the stories were released, they were intended to damage me. They were intended to make sure that I never show my face in public again. They were intended to make sure that I lose confidence and self-esteem. And that is why, for me, the advice I'd give people is don't let that happen to you. And I still remember the day the pictures were splashed out in the media. I had 3 public events that day. So I was moving from one public event to the second one. And then the pictures were out there. And someone asked me, are you going to be okay? Will you still be able to make your speech? I said, of course. Because whoever is sending these pictures knows I have 3 events, and they want to make sure that I collapse.
Yes.
But of course, like I told you, I have a very thick skin. So I went on with my event, and I went on with the other event. And in the evening, I called a press conference, and I told them, and remember what I said about me, I don't allow my circumstances to define me. I define my own circumstances. Yes. So the fact that I'm a divorced woman is not going to define me. I shall tell my own story, and I shall define myself. And so I told the media, I'm not going to let you engage me on this story. Right now, I have the people of Wasingishu to serve. I have today given out 10 million shillings worth of checks and helped young people to start enterprise. Tomorrow, I have a church event, and I am going there. And the day after that, I'm going, and the next day I was on television. Everyone expected in fact, I remember someone in the media sent me a message and said, are you still going to be able to come to the show, the morning show? I said, like hell I will. I'm going to be there.
Yes. Follow me there. Follow me there.
And I remember, so I went on, we had been in Naivasha. Remember when the Jubilee like-minded MPs had a big meeting? So I was there with 200 MPs. Of course, everyone was looking at me and wondering, am I going to be okay? And of course, usually I'm sort of the one who helps draft things. So I was there. I went on stage. I said, okay, guys, let's get this job done. We finished it. And then we said we're going to have a press conference the following day. But remember, I was supposed to be on NTV. So I left Naivasha at 4 in the morning, appeared on TV 6 to 8, drove back to Naivasha and was at the press conference. So people started telling me, but you're just fine. You can still do your 100 miles an hour, you know, without flinching. And so it's the way you deal with it. Don't, because people can pick something about your life and make that what defines you, to the extent that you lose your other great work and personality that you do.
Yes.
And it's and if you whatever biases you saw in the media, that's very true. Men can move on, women are not allowed to move on.
Yes.
That was the message that we were sending. But remember, I always say the Bible says, and the 2 shall become 1. It doesn't say the half and the half shall become 1. So I'm still a full person.
It's the 2, not the half. Brilliant, Gladys. You've hammered one point. Define yourself. Because if you don't, you become the world's ping ball. They throw you this way and that way, and before you know it, your head is literally a portion meal, you know, and you don't know yourself. So thank you so much. But this should go on and on and on. Let's probably have some last comments from from Mona, from Nana. I think I'll go first to Mona. I will then come back on a few take-off points, and then we ask Nana to wrap up with a few words of thank you. And also those who are listening to us there, if you want to make a final comment or question, please do so. I am looking at your comments. Mona, as a youngster, what are your takeaways? Your last word on this.
Thank you so much for calling me a youngster. Yay. My takeaway, wrapping everything up from what we've said today for me is you can always redefine yourself. You can always define and redefine yourself. Njoki, Nana, a few weeks ago, we had a gentleman who came on and he said, men don't have a problem doing this. A man can be 60 and decide he's going to be the first ski person in Kenya, the first Kenyan to ski in the Olympics, and he'll try it. And women, we shy away from that. So the thing is, for me, I feel like, define and redefine yourself. And when you're there, once you know who you are, that's all you need. Know who you are. That's all you need.
Now, let me go to some of the key points you've given us. I need to pick up my notebook. Oops, sorry, it fell. Gladys, there's several things you've told us. The support the parents give. Let's start from when kids are young. We as parents should know that you don't make a strong daughter. Your daughter doesn't become strong. Your sister doesn't become strong. Your auntie or whatever when they're already adults, because it was planted there from the beginning. What messages are we giving them and repeating to them? Not to be intellectually superior, academically. Let me say academic, because there are people who pass exams, but they are not necessarily that intelligent. Not to excel academically does not mean that is synonymous with being a great socio-fit and being a good leader. No, common sense has a big deal to it. You've also told us, Gladys, that don't assume people know you. You might be up there, the English you speak, your accent, the way you dress, people might be seeing you, oh, that one, she's over there, she's not here. Let people know you. Yeah, like when you go to the village, let them see the you. That helps demystify and remove misconceptions. Yeah, and whenever people are lacking information, they always feel it with negative. That is human nature. You've also told us very strongly that do not be afraid to be who you are. Do not make apologies. And first impression is the lasting impression, and you don't have another chance to change the first impression. So if somebody tells you the bouquet of flowers has arrived in the room, like Murebo, beauty, you've come in, just know they're just seeing you as flowers, but not an equal human being. So correct that immediately with no apologies, and actually you end up winning much more respect than if you're just there in the room fighting every day. So we make ourselves. We do decide who we are going to be. Let's stop blaming the world, because it's us who have decided that. And we shouldn't be afraid, because if somebody feels you are full of yourself, surely that's what I should be full of, me. Without being full of me, then I'm full of fears. I'm full of other people's misconceptions. You've also said about don't be afraid to be even trailblaze. I'll call it the blazing the trail, because here you are talking about dissolving parliament. Most people who don't really understand what it is that you're trying to get and might be thinking, now this woman has gone really cuckoos. But you know, cuckoos is good because it's crazy people who make a difference in the world, not the normal people. There we go. We move on. Yeah. Then I think also what you have said, I started by saying you look gorgeous, you look beautiful. Let's be feminine. That was also the first advice I got from my boss. I was in a very male-dominated career. Management consultants those days were white male and older, and here I was, 24-year-old girl, skinny little girl from the local university, not even an overseas one. And I remember my boss, who was an elderly Irishman, asked me, "What are your biggest challenges?" I said, "I'm a woman." And she said, and I'm trying so hard in a male-dominated environment where everybody believes my bosses, my supervisors must be my boyfriends. Whenever we went out on assignments, they're like, "So you're sharing a room?" Because they didn't think we are two consultants. My boss told me, do everything you can to the best of your knowledge, but do it as a woman. Yes. Do it as a woman. Celebrate being a woman. So Gladys, the learning points are so many. My notebook is full, but I'll stop there so I can give Nana an opportunity to do a wrap up and thank our guests. And yes, Nana, over to you, our chairperson.
Wasn't this the perfect call to have Gladys?
I know, yeah.
I mean, I was trying to interrupt the conversation because usually we do 1 hour. But oh my goodness, the power that is flowing, the nugget of wisdom that you're sharing, it was just not possible to stop this conversation. And I will say this, when I was speaking to Linda and I said, Linda, how do I address Gladys? She says, don't call her honorable. She doesn't like it. I found that so refreshing, and I found myself really at peace with you because you are so real. You are so real. It's unbelievable. And I like my takeaway. Of course, there are so many, but that thing of, do you do this with them? You know, the way you behave here with us, we are peeling potatoes. Do you behave like that? That's my takeaway, because yes, we put on our suits, we put on our hairs, and then show up looking untouchable, and we connect.
Yes.
I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna change that. That would be, you know. So, Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya, I started by saying that we are focused on women's leadership and economic empowerment. So this is in alignment with our vision. We would like to take this further, Gladys, because the discussions with you are going to empower so many women and so many young people. And I've already seen synergies of where we can work with you, not just in Nairobi, back into your county with your people.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yes, women. I want to come to your county. Yes.
The city of champions.
And that's everything.
Yes. The city of champions. So I say thank you. It's time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. That was one of the lines I loved in the movie we watched. And one of my favorite by Dr. King is, the time to always do right. The time is always right to do right. The time is always right to do right. With those few words, I want to say thank you to you, Gladys. Of course, Mona, always lovely to see you looking like a flower, glowing.
With her nice hair. I like her hair.
Thank you.
Always does that. She has a flower on her head. Yes.
By the way, Njoki is the Commonwealth Business Women Network Kenya Vice Chair.
Okay.
So
she didn't tell me that. She told me she's the moderator.
That is the role I'm playing here.
Thank you so much, Njoki. Yes. We are good.
I want to conclude and say my goodbyes with a question that has been posted by one of our directors, I think, yes, Rachel Dongo. Now, I'm going to paraphrase it. Gladys, are we looking at President Gladys in the near future?
Why not?
Good.
Great
Let
answer.
us know. We start
Great
working
answer.
now. Let us know. We start
I have
working.
only just begun, huh?
Yes, yeah.
The sky is the limit.
The sky is the limit. Thank you so much. We know you have a function to attend. We want to thank you. Thank you, my chairperson, Nana. Thank you, Mona. This has been brilliant, and I just wanted it to go on and on. But we've got to say goodbye. Thank you so much for our audience. Nim, Shiro Mwangi, Jen Kerubo, a few other names that people who posted, Lady T from Atlanta, Felicia, Zena, all of you who took the time to post. We want every time when we do these film nights, we want it to be very participative. You don't have to agree with what you're saying. Actually type there and say we disagree. Let's have debate. Let's have side conversations. Let's grow our women. Let's develop.
Somebody must just say that President Gladys sounds so great.
Amen to that.
She didn't get the middle name Boss for nothing, you know.
Yeah, I'm Gladys Boss.
Okay, ladies, I have to love you and say goodbye and say goodbye to our audience. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Love you. Gladys, you are such an inspiration. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night. Have a great weekend. God bless.